In joining the military, what kind of benefits did you get, if any?
Honestly, I think it's probably one of the best decisions anyone can make at 18. If they don't know what they want to do their 4 years and then they can get out and then it can provide you for 4 years of free schooling. So that's what I did. It paid for my schooling and it also gives you a stipend for books and also housing while you're in schooling. So right now I own one duplex in my hometown. My mortgage is only 500 and it's
What?
renting for 1200 right now.
That's insane. And how much is your total stock value for both of them combined?
Right now I'm at like 135,000.
Wow.
What is up, guys? Jason here. Welcome back to the channel in our series Nurses to Riches, The Road to Fire. Today's guest is a nurse from Florida who took a different path than most of our previous guests. After spending 10 years in the military, he used his benefits to fund his education and start his career as a nurse. Now, he's earning $41 an hour, owns a duplex, and has grown his net worth to $180,000 by making smart investments in both real estate and the stock market. He's going to show you how he was able to purchase a duplex with only $12,000 down. And he's also going to share how he's doing it all while only being in the nursing profession for a little more than 2 years. So tell us what your name is and a little bit about yourself.
Hello, my name is Damien. I am currently working in the IR as a nurse, and I was a previous ER nurse for 2 years.
Cool. Okay, so where are you living at the moment?
I'm currently living in Jacksonville, Florida.
Oh, okay, Florida. I've interviewed a lot of nurses from Florida. What's it like to be a nurse out there?
It's not like the West Coast, they don't have very strong unions, but I feel like there is still some pretty, competitive pay for the most part for this area.
Hmm. And we'll talk about your hourly rate and how much you've made for the year later on, but I'd like to know, why did you decide to become a nurse in the first place?
Pretty generic. I think when I got out of the military, I saw my grandmother in the hospital and just seeing like how everyone was working with her, and thought it'd be a really good field to go into, and it's a pretty stable field as well. So I just enjoy helping people.
Yeah. And you said you joined the military for what reason? Why did you want to get into the military?
Honestly, out of high school, I was 18, didn't know what I wanted to do with my life exactly, and at that time, college was just not going to be like the perfect option for me. So I actually did the military for 10 years, and then I got out of the military and pursued nursing.
Wow. So you spent 10 years in the military before you decided to become a nurse. So you were what, 28?
Yeah, I got out of the military at 28. I did about 8 years active duty and like 2.5 part time. I was finishing up my BSN.
Mm. And what was your upbringing like? Because you said you didn't really know what you wanted to do when you graduated high school. Did anybody along the way, like growing up, even mention college to you? Did they ever mention nursing at all?
Honestly, not really. I guess where I'm from, like college wasn't necessarily a priority. I know a lot of my family actually were like the first generation. My cousins and I are to actually go to college and even graduate high school. I think most of my aunts and uncles, they all have their GED, never went to college, but they still figured out, like a way to make it.
Mm. Yeah. And what did they say when you got your nursing degree?
I think they were just
Mm.
happy to see, I kept going in a positive direction. I think when I joined the military, that was a big move. I was first generation military. Besides my great grandfather, there's no one else in my family that really joined the service. So I was one of the first ones to do that as well. I wanted to kind of get away from my small town.
Now, question, in joining the military, what kind of benefits did you get, if any, in terms of like nursing school choices, any loans, any financial assistance, anything like that?
Honestly, I think it's probably one of the best decisions anyone can make at 18. If they don't know what they want to do their 4 years and then they can get out and then it can provide you for 4 years of free schooling. So that's what I did. It paid for my schooling and it also gives you a stipend for books and also housing while you're in schooling. So I was, the months I was in schooling, I was getting, I think, roughly like $1,800 a month for housing, but it goes off of where you're living. So if you're out in California, like
Mhm.
San Diego, where I was stationed, you can get upwards to $2,600 a month just for housing,
Wow.
and they'll still pay for your schooling as well. So it's actually pretty insane, like the benefits that you can get.
But in order to qualify this, do you have to be in the military, or could you have finished your term, your service, and then gone to school and had them pay for it?
Yeah, so actually, once you just do your 4 years of active duty time, you
Mhm.
get the GI Bill, and you can use that. I think it's for 10 years post of getting out of the military. I may be wrong with that,
Yeah.
but you can be completely out of the military. So you can do your four and
Wow.
then just get your schooling paid for.
That's awesome. Did you know about that going in?
Yeah, it's one of the things that like a lot of the recruiters talk about. Oh, you want to get your school paid for? To be honest, I wasn't really thinking about that. I was just a bunch of my friends were joining. We're like, yeah, we're going to do 20 years and travel the world and see all these great things. And but after the fact, I was like, this is just a benefit that just no one can really match.
Mm. And you said you did active duty while you were in the military. Like, where were you stationed during that time?
Actually, I was first stationed in Jacksonville, Florida. So I was down here for about 3 years, and then I got stationed in the middle of Pennsylvania, and then lastly, San Diego, California.
Wow. So you said you spent 10 years in the military and then you went to nursing school, or you got your degree in the 10th year?
I got my associates in my 10th year. So I did about 8 years active. So I wasn't able to go to school full time or do like a nursing program. I was able to do my prerequisite classes. And then after that, I was able to finish my BSN online while I was completely out of the military, while I was working full time as well.
Gotcha. And how was was it difficult to be in the military and going to school at the same time?
They actually have a completely different benefit while you're in that you can actually take advantage of school benefits without using your 4 years of your GI Bill. But it can be challenging depending on what you're doing. You may have a really rigorous schedule where you're going on constant deployments, and there's certain programs you can't do, and nursing was one of them. You can get your prereqs done, but no real active duty is going to allow you to like pursue like clinicals and all that extra time outside of your work schedule.
Gotcha. And then, okay, so then you got your associate's degree, and then what happened?
So I finished my associates in December of 22, the same month that I actually got out of the military, and then I went straight into a ER position, and actually just started in the IR 2 days ago.
What? 2 days ago?
Yeah, literally 2 days ago. I just got off work actually.
Oh my gosh. So you're basically like a new grad. Well, not a new grad. You're almost pretty much, right? Is it
Yeah,
a
it's
is it
like
a new grad program that you got into?
it's not necessarily a new grad, but there is like a 2 month orientation that we have to go
Oh,
through just to learn the ins and outs of the IR.
I see. Why did you choose to get into IR out of all things?
Actually, I met my fiance in nursing school, and she recently switched to day shift. So I was trying to figure out a different day shift position that I can do without taking I guess, really like a huge pay cut because of the night shift differential.
I see. Okay.
Like
So
IR,
what special? I see. So your choices were between something procedural in your mind, because at least you knew that procedural units worked mostly day shift.
yes, and I don't know how it is on the West Coast or in different states, but I know in Florida they have like a small differential as well while working days.
I see. Yeah, most of the hospitals out here, the majority of them, unless they're like a teaching hospital like Stanford and the UC systems, they don't really give differential for different specialties. And I know Kaiser's known for that. Like, we don't really, if you work in the ER, IR, PACU, ICU, OR, they're not going to give you a differential. They get paid the same amount as the nurses in the med surge, tele floors.
Okay.
So yeah, but however, I mean, the good thing about Kaiser is that our pay is so high that nobody complains about it.
I know it's insane. I think I remember watching a video of I
Yeah.
think you and your wife posted of like where y'all were living and how much you paid for your property and how much y'all were making. I was like, this is just insane. I was in nursing school at the time. I was still finishing up my ADN. I was like, I'm trying to be like them, make all this crazy money, and yeah, it's
And
pretty
you guys
inspiring.
don't have any. You guys don't have any kids yet, huh?
No, not yet, not yet.
When are you planning to have kids?
Maybe 2 to 3 years. There's some financial goals I still want to hit first before I want to be like really financially stable.
Mm. And what are those goals?
Have maybe a few more properties, some more passive income coming in, have a net worth hopefully closer to 300K by then.
Mm. Okay, so let's talk about your income then. So when you first started, what was your hourly rate? How much were you making per year?
This might sound crazy, I know, because you're coming from New York and then Kaiser out in California, but the
Mhm.
starting rate that I got was 33 a base rate, but then a night shift differential through the weekdays was an extra 650, and then on the weekends was 1025. So close to like it averaged like maybe like $41 an hour as like a new graduate.
Yeah,
I think
that's not bad.
I made like 90, close to 90K my first year, but that was including overtime though. So I did pick up some overtime here and there, but
Yeah, no, 41 an hour. That's actually not that bad. I mean, I've spoken with nurses who are making like 30 an hour average.
I heard
So which part of Florida are you working in?
I'm actually working at a level one. Oh, I was working at a level one trauma center in Jacksonville.
I see. Okay. And do they have a union?
They do, but it's nothing like the West Coast unions. Like they have a union, but there's no like collective bargaining agreement or anything like that. They have some representatives. I don't know what they exactly do, to be honest. But here we are with our crazy patient loads, though.
Yeah, I was gonna ask you about that. What are the patient loads like? Because right now you're an IR, so it's different.
In the ER, not even exaggerating, like 6, 7, upwards to 8. 8 was more rare, but 7 wasn't like uncommon. And even with 6, you might have two ICU level patients that are just, they should be like one on one or one on two, and then you have five other patients you're trying to take care of. It's just really not a safe environment, to be honest.
Yeah, I talk about this often, but I remember working in New York, and it's insane. I don't even know how I did it. There were days we would come in and we'd have like 17 patients assigned to us in the ER. Like,
I'm like,
how do you even expect that? Yeah.
you're just running around and literally just throwing medication at people and
Yeah.
shooting darts at people.
Yeah, because if you think about it, let's say you do have an ICU patient and you still have like let's be conservative and say you have maybe 12 patients because that was the norm, right? So like let's say you have an ICU plus you have 12 other patients. You're really only going to focus on that ICU patient. You're not going to like the other ones, they'll be all the way in the back of your mind. If they have a medication that needs to be administered, it may be administered like 3 hours later. And that was normal.
Yeah, there was times I've never had 12. I don't even know how you can even do that. But there's times where I'd say have 6, 7, and then they'd give you an eighth without even letting you know. And it could be something that was like a chest pain workup or respiratory distress, and you're like, I didn't even know I had this patient. He's been hanging out here for 45 minutes, not even on the monitor.
Yeah. Wait, so how long did you do that for?
I did that for almost 2 years, from
I see.
from January of 22 until now, which I
I
still
see.
do PRN in the ER as well.
Why would you do that to yourself?
That's why I had to escape as well, for like my
Yeah.
own like mental well being and just like I want to see the sunlight.
Yeah. So now, in terms of like your stress level, how would you compare ER to IR?
So far, the 2 days that I've experienced, it's
Yeah.
completely different. You're not running around with your head cut off. It's very methodical. It's like you have time to take care of your patients, and you get a guaranteed lunch. You're not skipping your lunches. You can actually relax and de-stress. So it's been a good change already.
And is it the same hospital system that you work ER in?
Yeah. So yeah, like it actually is. It's just like one floor up.
Oh, okay. Did you have to interview for the position, or did they just say, "Oh, well, you work for the same hospital, you got it"?
Actually, I don't know. I was having a hard time. I was interviewing. I got a few job offers at like a few different places, and the job I'm currently in was actually they took the longest, and I had to go through like
Really?
multiple interviews. They were like, I don't know if a bunch of people were applying for the same position, but I was struggling.
Wow, that's it's like night and day because here, I know in New York it was similar to that. I remember when we wanted to apply for a different specialty or different department, we had issues getting jobs in those departments because we had to jump through hoops just to get them. But here, when you work at Kaiser, it goes by seniority. So, but they do consider some of your experience. They really do, especially. But if you work in the ER, you can basically work almost anywhere in any specialty because they know you have a varied level of experience. So when you apply to like PACU, IR, ASU, which is an ambulatory surgery unit, you know what? I should stop using the abbreviations and the like short form of the departments because a lot of people are like, "What are you talking about?" So
Yeah,
IR is interventional radiology for those of you that don't know, and PACU is post anesthesia care unit. So like all of these specialties, if you work in the Kaiser system and you've been there, let's say 3 years, and you're applying for a position in the PACU from the ER, and then someone in the same hospital or hospital system, they could be somewhere else in a different location, applies to the same position, but they only have 1 year of experience. Because you have more years of experience, they don't even interview you. They just give you the job. Yeah. They'll call you, they'll tell you, hey, you're up next for this position. Do you want it? If you say yes, then they just say, okay, we have a confirmation date. I'm going to reach out to your manager, let them know they have to release you in 30 days, and you start in 30 days. So that's
is that like sometimes like a double-edged sword? Like if you really want a position, and you got like everyone's gunning for it, that's like super high up, and you kind of can get like locked out for maybe longer than you would hope for.
Well, yes and no, because here's the thing. Like some of these positions that get posted have terrible schedules. Because in the Kaiser system, it's not self scheduling. So you don't get to schedule yourself for the days that you want to work. They give you a template and they'll tell you what days you're going to be coming to work and what days you'll have off. And it repeats itself. It's a cycle, repeats itself every 2 weeks. So it's going to be the same days every 2 weeks indefinitely until you change that position, or you change your shift, you change your specialty, whatever the case may be. But yeah, so it's a pro and a con. The con is that you may end up getting it, but you're going to get a template that you really, really hate.
Oh,
So you'll end up in the unit that you want to be in, but you're going to have a really bad template, and you're going to be working like, let's say, one day on, one day off, one day on, one day off. You know what I mean? But once you're there, you get access to the internal postings within the department before they go out to the internal candidates within the organization.
oh,
Right.
okay.
So yeah, yeah. So you'll be able to change your template if you're not happy with it. So it is a lot of good things and bad things about it, but I think there's more pros to it than cons because you can actually work in a different department and not even have to interview for it.
Yes, that's nice.
Yeah. Okay. So now you've been in IR for 2 days, so we can't really talk about much in terms of like what it's like. But did they increase your pay?
Yes, they did. So it was actually, in the grand scheme of things, it was kind of a pay cut because I lost my night shift differential,
Mm,
but I got the IR differential, which is not as much as the night shift differential. But I'm also working 40 hours a week instead of 36. So in the grand scheme of things, it averages out to be like the same pay.
I see. Okay.
And like the whole long form is basically the same pay.
Well, at least you're still getting paid the same thing.
Yeah, yeah.
But you don't really have much opportunity to pick up overtime shifts in IR as opposed to the ER, right?
Yeah, that is true. That's why I spoke to my manager in the ER, and she's okay with me picking up at the freestanding EDs and the ED whenever I want, just to be able to pick up those extra shifts.
Yeah. And when you get your pay, do they separate the departments in it? Like, how does that work? Because you're working in two separate ones.
That's what's nice. So they'll actually you can kind of double dip a little bit. So you can get the night shift differential and the IR differential at the same time.
Oh,
So that's what I plan on
wow.
doing. I plan on working like princess shifts, 7 p to 7 1 a.m. to be able to get the night shift differential and the IR differential, including overtime.
That is pretty cool. Yeah. What other kind of benefits do you guys get in your facility? Let's talk about vacation leave. Do you get vacation leave, paid sick leave? What kind of other stuff do you get?
We don't really get paid sick leave, but we get a pretty decent amount of like vacation time because they also give us holiday time off. Even if you don't work the holidays, you'll still get 12 hours of holiday time off, regardless if you work it or not. And then you get your general like probably like 21 days of just time off. There's no real sick leave that we have, but in the ER especially, you're able to make your schedule where you can work the front half of one week, like a Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, and
Mhm.
the back half of the next week of Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and have 6 or 7 days off like all the time. So you really don't need to take leave. I have so much like leave saved up.
Wow. You can tell you're a new grad, well, fairly new grad, because after a while, you're going to start using those days.
Yeah.
When I first started, I rarely called out sick, but I've been a nurse now for 12 years. And I think after, I would say like year five is when the level of, ambition, it just started to drop dramatically. And I speak to nurses who have been in it for a long time. Like I have a coworker that also, actually two of them that came from New York to California. We all work in the same department, and we also worked in the same department in New York, and they all feel the same way that I do. One of them, he has like 20 years of experience though, and the other one, he has about 13 or 14 years, and we can't even pinpoint what it is either. That's what's crazy because where we work, we're like fully staffed all the time. The vacancy rate is like 3%. We
Dang.
don't get more than four patients if they're tele patients. If you get an ICU patient, it's going to be a 1-to-1 unless the patient is like settled down and like stable enough where you can get an additional soft ICU patient. So it's pretty cush in my opinion, and their opinion too, but you just don't know what it is. I feel like maybe we just need a change of scenery. Working in the ER for so long, it kind of does that to a lot of people.
Yeah, I don't know how. I mean, I know people that have done it for 20 years. I'm like, how are you still at the same hospital, same position? I'm like, I would be going insane. Like, I need to change it up a
Yeah.
little bit. So I'm kind of bouncing around a little bit here and there. And I'm only 2 years in, and I'm already kind of feeling like that. I'm like, I'm tired of giving just my breathing treatments, my chest pain workups. Let's get a little bit, different scenery.
Yeah, I think that does play into it because the nurses that I speak with who go to the PACU, they say it was the best decision they've ever made. And that's actually really common for ER nurses who end up in the PACU is they actually never even leave the PACU because it's so like stress free. And they only get, I believe, I think it's like no more than two patients, something like that. Yeah. But I thought about it, but Monica and I were going to move back to New York in less than 2 years. So it just wouldn't make sense for me to switch specialties right now or switch units because I'm just going to end up leaving in like a year.
Wait, you're going back to New York?
Yeah.
I thought I saw you post something about that. I
Yeah.
was like, really? There's no way.
It's not even the money. Like we obviously like if we could make this kind of money in New York, we would have never left though. But it's just we miss living there. We miss our family. And we've gotten to the point where we paid off all the debt that we needed to pay off. We have no debt except for our house. If we sell our house, we will have like zero debt at all. And it'll all be net worth, like liquid assets. And I feel like if we move back to New York, we also don't have to work as full time nurses because we're no longer in debt, right? So we will probably either rent an apartment when we move back over there. And the rent, don't get me wrong, the rent is expensive. We're probably going to spend about like $4,500 a month on rent. But we spend that much on mortgage right now. Right. So it's not going to be that much of a shift. Plus, we won't have any of the other expenses that come with owning a house. Like if you have any repairs that need to be made, like let's say the HVAC system needs to be maintained, we have to pay additionally for that. We have to pay, like this house is about 3,000 square feet. The electric bill is not that high. I mean, it's like maybe $180 on average per month. But there's other things that come with the cost of owning a home. The taxes, you got to pay property taxes. You got to pay insurance on the mortgage when you get a loan from the bank. And it just all adds up. And I calculated over time, like we've been here for 7 years. If we would have stayed renting for like $1,800 a month, which was what we were renting for before, even if that would have gone up to like, let's say $2,400 by now per month. If we would have stayed renting and just invested the difference of like, let's say $2,400 per month every month for the last 7 years, we would have exceeded the amount of appreciation we got in our house and the amount of money we saved from putting that as a deduction, the interest as a deduction, and the property tax as a deduction in our taxes. It just makes no sense. And yeah,
I think this is like the first time in a long time where it's actually significantly cheaper to rent
yeah,
than it is to own. So it just makes sense. I think a lot of people have the misconception about home ownership, and like you mentioned, all the additional costs. It's just that adds up.
yeah.
And so I'm actually thinking about renting when I move. I'm thinking about moving to Tampa here in the next 2 years.
Yeah, yeah. Why Tampa? You want to be closer to the beach?
Actually, well, that as well. Like the Tampa St. Pete is great, but I got some family down there as well, and then my fiance got into MP school like around that area.
Wow. So she wants to be an NP. So have you looked at any positions in the area, or are you just thinking about it right now?
Just kind of thinking about it. Not really looked because it's probably still like about a year and a half, 2 years out.
It's cool that she wants to be an NP because if you work as an NP in other parts like of the country that are not like California or New York City, like these bigger states. Well, Florida's huge, but if you work in even like I would say red states, most red states, the pay is higher for NPs than in blue states,
Oh yeah,
depending on the location. Because I know I've looked into this before I created a spreadsheet about it, but yeah, like the majority of NPs who want to make a lot of money, you can go into like rural areas and you get more likely to make a lot of money as well. And you just have more options, because you can work as an NP or you can work as an RN. It's your
exactly.
choice. So what about you? Are you going to end up going back to school?
No, there ain't no way. I think I'm on a different financial journey of like stocks, rental properties, and things like that. I'm hoping I'll be able to build up enough passive income through that, and hopefully, actually, honestly, eventually be able to get away from bedside in I'd say 5 to 10 years.
Mm.
Or not, I'm
Okay.
gonna get away, but like work PRN or not, kind of be like financially free. Have you ever heard the movement FIRE? I'm
Of
assuming.
course. Of
Yeah.
course. I talk about it all the time.
No, financial independence, retire early. That's what it's all about, and I've been
Yeah.
hearing that for years. So that's kind of really the goal right now.
So you mentioned that you don't want to have any kids until you've secured some property. Do you have any properties that you own at the moment?
Yeah, so right now I own one duplex in my hometown. Where I'm from originally, it's super cheap to live. So when I tell people the mortgage on my first duplex, they're just like, "What'd you get? It must be like a pile of garbage." But I got a duplex. My mortgage is only 500, and it's
What?
renting for 1,200 right now.
That's insane. And it's so in your hometown where? What city?
It's in Erie, Pennsylvania, middle of nowhere. It's kind of cold. It's right next to one of the Great Lakes, so it's kind of like a. It's gonna sound kind of bad, like a dying community, but there's
Mm.
like so many great houses out there still. Like the market is still pretty good. You can find properties from anywhere from 50 to 100K that are duplexes. You might have to. It's getting a little bit more competitive now, but there's still deals to be made. And that's when I'm actually trying to get another deal going right now. But I keep getting outbid by these people from out of state, cash offers, no inspections, no nothing. It's just insane.
Yeah, see, that was one of our plans when we moved back to New York. We were considering maybe buying either a duplex to anywhere as large as a fourplex and living in one of the units though, and just having them pay us rent so
Oh
that we
yeah.
don't have to worry about paying as much rent as we are anticipating on our own. Yeah, because what we currently have about anywhere from 350,000 to $400,000 in equity in our home. So we can definitely get something out there. But if we do it similar to how you did it, because you said you pay $500 in mortgage, but you rent it out for 1,200.
Yeah, so like the rent where I'm from is super cheap. So like the top floor is renting for like 650, and the bottom floor is renting for 550. And then I pay a property manager 10% of the rent collected. So if they don't collect any rent, they actually don't get paid, which is like an incentive for them to really try to like get the rent money.
How'd you find your property manager?
Just through a local like Erie Facebook group, and just through referrals from other people. Like, who do y'all recommend for property managers? And I actually found another fellow veteran that's managing our properties for us, and so far it's been good. And I've had it for 9 months now, and it's been going really well.
Wow. Yeah. And are you on bigger pockets?
Not really. Like a little bit here and there.
Yeah, because you don't live in Pennsylvania, you live in Florida. So how'd you like determine that this was going to be a good value for you, like this property?
Just the price point. It was profitable and had long-term tenants, and I still have family in Erie. So if anything like happened, I have a lot of family that work in the like HVAC system, electrical, and stuff like that. So I knew if I could secure a few properties in that area, they'd be able to help me as well, and just kind of build from there.
I see. Yeah, it's did you ever feel nervous? Because I know this is a question that I get all the time. This is why some people don't get into real estate. They don't know what they're getting themselves into. They don't know if their tenants are going to stop paying the rent. They don't know if they're going to end up having to pay the entire mortgage on their own and not having anything to back themselves up with. So like, did you ever have any of these feelings going into the deal?
Oh my goodness, yeah, of course. It took me like 3 years to finally just like bite the bullet. 'Cause when I got out of the military, I had like a nothing crazy. I had like 35K saved up, and I was going to throw that into something. I was like, I'm going to do something with it. But then I was like, out of the military, wasn't really working full time at the time, so I was still in school. And it took me 3 years to build up the courage, and I found the right property where I was like, it seemed like a no brainer. It was profitable, long term tenants. I was like, it didn't seem like I could lose. And I think I had 25% down. So I put like 12,000 something down, and it's bringing back a lot. Even if one tenant doesn't pay, the mortgage is still paid for. And if God forbid they're both not in there, it's only $500. Like I can pick up an extra shift, and it's okay.
That's so true, man. What year did you purchase this duplex in?
January of this year.
Okay. Oh, wow, that was recent.
Yes. So I'm actually again. I was trying to look for another one right now. I keep bidding because I want to buy it probably 2 to 3 in the next year and a half, 2 years, hopefully.
In the same location.
Yeah, same location because it's still prime. There's still some pretty good deals. It's just I think people are finding out about that market now, and a bunch of money is just flooding that area.
Yeah. You know what? There's markets like that throughout the US because I interviewed this pharmacist. His name is Stephen Nguyen.
Oh,
And yeah.
I watched that one. Yeah.
Yeah, right. So he has deals in the Midwest or southern part of the US. And he bought like a 26 unit apartment complex down there. And I mean, he paid like I think it was like $500,000. He ended up selling one of the houses out here in California to get that much, or I believe he actually had to reappraise the house and do a cash out refi. And he ended up using some of that money to buy the house out there, the apartment complex. But man, he's making so much money; it's insane. He makes like $260,000 as a pharmacy director. His fiance makes, I believe, he said 160 to 180K, and then he's generating now after he finished paying off his contractor like a monthly fee for renovating his property of like 5,000. He's generating about $17,000 a month from his properties right now. It's
Like
crazy.
when I hear that, I feel like I like missed out on like the crazy low interest rates, or even if I was got out the military a little earlier and finished my nursing degree, could have got some of the COVID pay. I think that would have really like some people could have made a lot during COVID. Even though it
Yeah.
was
Oh.
crazy as it was, but there was property selling for cheap. The interest rates were low. You could got fourplexes, quadplexes, and just everything.
But back in when we had the 2008 recession, the real estate market tanked and everybody was buying real estate at the time. Nobody thought there'd be a market like that again. And then it happened again in 2020, 2021. More people were buying because of the prices started going up though, because the interest rates were so low. But if you had, that's why there were a lot of people with cash offers, especially at that time. But if you already owned the house and you wanted to do a cash out refi, or you had many investment properties and you wanted to do a cash out refi, it was easy. And you can get a lot of money in a cash out refi. So that's what a lot of investors did. And yeah, they did really well for themselves.
We must have missed out. It could have.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, Monica and I, every now and then, we'll have a conversation. We're like, what if, what if, what if? But you can't really change it, right? You just got to do whatever you can going forward. So that's why, because her and I, we oftentimes will talk about the fact that if we would have just picked up more overtime and invested our money before our son was born, because he's three now, 3.5. If we would have done that before he was born, then at this point in time, our net worth could have been like at least like a 1.5 to $2 million. It's only, I say only, I know there's listeners that are listening in and probably have a net worth of like negative 100,000 or maybe 200,000, right? Our net worth is only about 750,000 right now, but it absolutely could have been higher than that, especially when we're in California earning so much money per year. But now we barely work. We work
Yeah.
like, I work 17 hours. I calculate this every pay period, 17 hours per week average, and Monica works 15.
Dang. Well, see, I think some people think too much of more overtime, more overtime. It's like, when are you gonna actually enjoy life? Like, you can
Yeah.
save and have
Yeah.
a plan, and you don't have to just work yourself to death. So I think there's got to be a happy medium. I can't just burn myself out.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's where we got to because once you have kids, man, everything's gonna change. Yeah. And don't get me wrong, like we have a daughter. She's 18 though. So when our son was born, it changed everything because our daughter's old enough to take care of herself. But our
Oh
son
my
can't
goodness.
take care of himself. Like he requires our attention 24/7.
Yeah.
That's why it's good that you want to focus right now on your finances and then have kids. I think that's a good plan because once you do have kids, it's going to be a lot harder. Not that it's impossible, but it's definitely a lot harder to do.
Yeah, I'm just looking at just expenses in general. Like, I hear families talk about their daycare bill for one kid, and I'm just like, that is basically a mortgage for some of them.
Yeah, no kidding. Thankfully here in Sacramento it's not that high. I mean, I say not that high. If you're somewhere else, you're probably gonna be like, wow, that's a lot. I don't think it's that high though, regardless of where you're located. We pay about $1,300 every month. He goes 5 days a week from like Monday through Friday, and we can drop him off as early as 7:30 in the morning, pick him up as late as 5:30. They feed him 4 times a day, right?
Oh,
And then they teach him about like the ABCs, they teach him about writing and all those things. However, we went to New York and we looked at the same school, like the same company that provides daycare out there. They were charging $3,900 per month.
jeez.
Yeah, so I don't know what it's like. How have you looked at how expensive it costs in your area?
No, there was just one of the nurses that I work with. She's a single mom with, I think, two kids, and she was saying, I think, paying over 2,000, and
Yeah,
the hours just weren't working well for her work schedule. And I was asking, I was like, how are you surviving?
yeah,
So I was like, I know what you make,
yeah,
and I'm like, it's just not adding up.
yeah. So let's talk about the cost of living now, because some nurses who I've interviewed previously say that the cost of living has been rising in Florida. And that's why a lot of them are making their move to California, like mainly the lower cost of living areas of California, because they know that they can still make a lot more and have a similar cost of living. So how would you compare your cost of living there to like some other place?
I think, yeah, Florida's getting crazy. When I was stationed here in 2012, which yeah, it's 12 years ago. It's like, the house I was looking at back then was brand new for like 145. That same house was listed. I just looked at it, it was like 390 something.
Mm,
It's skyrocketing. There's still some decent housing to be bought, but if you don't make a decent living, I really don't know how people are surviving. And I grew up with a single mom with two older sisters. She's making $13 an hour. Even then, I'm like, how did you even survive, mom?
So
$13 an hour?
do you own a house right now or are you renting?
No, so actually, I'm in a very good living situation. So right now, we're living with my fiance's family while we save up for one, our wedding, and then our primary residence as well.
Wow, that is amazing. And you're both working as nurses at the moment, right?
Yes. And
Wow.
like I think it's just culturally as well. Like my fiance is half Filipina, and her like being as one like culture and one family together is just helpful for everyone. We can help each other out. We can all save. So I don't know why it seems kind of frowned upon in the U.S. to like live with like your family until you're like really ready to get out. Why not get yourself a step ahead and going in the right direction?
Yeah, I agree. But I remember the first time I left my mother's place because I was raised along with my siblings. We were raised by my mother, and I left at 18 because I wanted my own rules. You know how many times I ended up back in my mom's place? It's like, I just kept coming back because I could. There were times where when I first moved out, I was sharing an apartment, a small, maybe like 550 square foot apartment with two other people, and I was sleeping in the living room. So every
Oh
time somebody came
no!
into the apartment, they saw me. No privacy whatsoever.
You got to survive somehow.
Yeah, but I went back to my mother's place a year after because our lease expired, and then I was like, you know what, I really want to be on my own. And I found one of my friends. He said, okay, let's move in together. And we rented a 3 bedroom apartment, and that one was decent. But man, it turned out I went on vacation. This is when Monica and I had just started dating because, like, I knew her online for 2 years before we did it in person. And when we started dating in person, we were like, you know what? I'm going to New York. She's Filipino, by the way. I'm going to the Dominican Republic on vacation. Do you want to come with me? And she was all for it. It was me, her, my family, her daughter, which is my daughter now. Like, I adopted her. And when we went over there, I remember telling my roommate before I left, I said, hey, you can come into my room because I had a flat screen TV. You can come into my room. You can watch TV if you want because he didn't have all of that. And I had a big bed. And when I came back, I saw roaches all over the bed. I saw a whole bunch of ramen noodle cups on my bed. They were
There
just
ain't
with
no
the
way.
noodles all over the bed. And I asked him what the hell happened in that bedroom. And he like flat out said it wasn't me.
There's no
Yeah,
way.
yeah, yeah. So that day I just packed all my stuff and left. And I was like, I don't ever want a roommate ever again. So I ended up back at my mom's place again. You know? But the fact that you guys you talk about how like it's frowned upon, in America, that when you're older and you still want to live with your parents, maybe because you want to save some money, it's really frowned upon. But being that Monica is Filipino, it's the exact opposite. And in my culture too, because I'm Dominican, like, we are all about family. So when I met Monica and moved in with my mom, I ended up back in Monica's place, and I was living with her for about a year or two, where her mom paid the rent, and then I just gave them the money for the rent because it was only like $500 at the time. She had like it was a special program that she got in Manhattan. So
Mhm.
thankfully, we were still able to save a lot of money because in New York, making like $47 an hour at the time when I moved in, and then Monica was an RN, we were making good money.
Yeah.
So we had plenty of money left over after we paid for the rent. But I think that's a good plan for you guys.
I think everyone should take that hack. Just stay at home and just save up and just really set yourself up. Like, why do you? I mean, I guess some people do want their own independence, and I get that, but it really puts you ahead if you just bunker down until at least until you're done with college. Like, don't put yourself in unnecessary debt that you don't need.
Yeah. So how much are you planning to save for everything?
As like my financial independence number of like what I want to get to
No,
like
first let's talk about how much you're trying to save for the wedding, and then how much you're trying to save for a house, and so on and so forth.
so the wedding, thankfully, we're doing a smaller wedding. It's like I think the wedding was like 25-30K, which
Okay.
where like we already have that saved. It's all in my stock account, and I keep seeing my stocks go up and up and up, and it's like I don't want to sell them yet. Like it's like they're going to the moon. They're going. But for the house, thankfully, again, being in the military, you get the VA loan. So if you don't really
Mm.
want to put the full 20% down to help with closing costs, and then you don't have to get the PMI insurance as well. But ideally, I still want to put 20% down just because houses are so expensive. Just to make it realistic. So I'm thinking like we're looking at houses close to the 400K range, so probably like 80K. Which again, I have that. I just don't want to. I just don't want to sell my stocks yet.
What kind of stocks are you investing in?
So I started investing right when I got out of the military. So I got primarily, I'm not as diverse as I should be. Two primary stocks, Tesla and a company called Palantir. Tesla has been pretty much flat. I've been like breaking even the entire time, but the company called Palantir is like it's been around for like 20 something years, early AI, works for the government and the I'm not government and the civilian sector, and it just skyrocketed. It got into the S&P 500, and I think I'm up like 150% in that stock.
Wow. And how much is your total stock value for both of them combined?
Right now, I'm at like 135,000.
Wow. Yeah. That's amazing, man. And you said you started investing, what, like 3 years ago, or when you started in the military?
No, I started like right when I got off of active duty. So that was 2019. I had like 35K, and then I put about half of that into the stocks. I was like, let me just see how it goes and give it a shot. I've been talking about stocks for years. I've been trying to figure it out, and then I said, let's just do it. And then kind of went from there. And then I got like addicted to seeing the number get higher. Like it got to 20K, 30K, 40K, and it was just now I'm kind of where I'm at now.
Have you thought about investing in index funds?
Yeah, so actually, looking back on it, realistically, if I would have just stuck with index fund like the S&P 500 or VOO or something like that, I probably would have even higher returns now. So you're not really going to beat the markets. I think anyone just, if you're looking to get into it, I know this isn't financial advice or anything like that, but the S&P 500 or anything like that, I feel like are a pretty safer pick for the most part.
It's either that or if you would have invested in Nvidia, because Nvidia's through the roof.
No, you know what's crazy is I had Nvidia. I only had I think it was one share before the split, so it went down to four shares. I was like, "There's no way it's going to keep going up." And they split again. I would have been up like 5 grand off of my one investment.
Yeah. I back at it now as well, and Monica and my total portfolio is about 320,000 just for the investment side of it. But if we would have invested the majority of that in Nvidia, man, we'd be worth like $10 million right now.
Oh my
It's
god.
insane. But even though I look at it that way, I have my other perspective that I look at, and is that when you play it safe with an S&P 500 index fund, at least you know that historically it's always performed well, and you're going to get a 10% return almost like 99% of the time. At least, well, actually at the moment it's 100% of the time, because it's the historical return, right? It's been over 10%. So, yeah, I mean, nothing's guaranteed, obviously, but it's less guaranteed when you're picking just one stock.
Have you ever met people that like? I wouldn't say they're not as financially savvy, but I know people that just hoard money in their savings account, and they don't even have like a high yield savings account. They're just getting their 0.02 or whatever it is, and I try to like just a high yield savings account. There's really no risk, 4.6%, and you're just there's nothing, and you can take it out whenever you want.
Well, I know people that are worse than that. I know people that made like 550K, 600,000 individually by themselves as nurses, and they didn't even put the money in a savings account. They just spent it all. That's
How? I can't even imagine like how like what are you doing to like fly through that kind of money?
Yeah, yeah, they don't even know. They really don't. That's pretty sad. Yeah, every time I get paid, when me and Monica get paid, because now she's working, she's been picking up more shifts since we're planning to move back to New York, and we want to go back to the Philippines before, because her grandparents are getting older, and we
Mhm.
want to make sure that we visit them before anything happens. So she's been picking up a lot more shifts. If she works 8 days in one pay period, she brings home like 5,600, almost $6,000 after taxes.
I need to
So
move out. I think I just needed to make that move just for a few years and just build. I have two friends that are in Portland, Oregon right now, and it's similar to California. They've been
yeah,
nurses for about 8 years, and
yeah,
they make like $84 an hour each, like
yeah,
base something. It's just insane. Like $84 an hour. I wish.
I know, I know. Yeah. So okay, so aside from this, right? Like you have this. You said it was $120,000 or so.
I've got 135 in stocks right now.
135. Do you have any other? Well, you know what? Let's talk about your total net worth, because you said you bought that property, the duplex out in Pennsylvania, and you have $135,000 here. So what is the total net worth now?
Total net worth is getting probably closer to like 180 because I have a 401k through my work that I've been with for 2 years, which I'm only doing the base 6%, whatever they're matching. And then when I was in the military, there's a similar 401k that they have called TSP. But honestly, I didn't know what I was doing at the time. I wasn't investing, very much into that, so I don't have a whole lot in that. And then the positive equity in my house as well. And then my car. My car's been paid off for years, so I don't know if people count cars. I got like
Yeah.
10, 15K in equity in my car.
Wow. And you are what, 30, 31?
30.
30. Man, you are in such a good position right now. You are doing way better than me and Monica were doing when we were that age. Because we didn't really start investing up until like 2020, 2019. That's when we decided to like really go hard on it because actually no, when COVID really like hit us hard, that's when we paid off all our debt. And that's when we truly started investing all of our money because a lot of our coworkers or friends that were working in hospitals like Stanford, they were getting their pay cut by like up to 30%. And this was during COVID when they had paused in California. They paused all elective surgeries.
Really?
And we were afraid that they were going to start like closing down departments, and maybe we wouldn't get any shifts at all. Which is, I mean, in our contract, it states that they cannot send us home at all. But if the hospital's not making any money, they have no choice, right? So like we thought about that and we said, okay, as soon as they start offering more overtime, we're going to pick up and we're just going to pay off all this debt. And that was in so by the end of 2020, like early 2021, we paid off all of our debt, and then we just continued to invest after that.
Do you know what number you want to get to by like retirement, where you think you'll be like good to go, or like do you want to do like the whole like 4% rule, like you can take out 4% and it never goes down or anything like that?
Yeah. I want to follow the 4% rules. And when we first started the YouTube channel, the goal was really like 3.75 million because okay, we could live off $150,000 a year. That's the way I viewed it back then. But now that we want to move back to New York, we've increased that number to like 10 to 12 million.
Oh, you're like
Yeah. Because we don't want to feel poor when we're living in New York, you know.
even like
What
my
about
first.
yours?
Yeah, look, my first number is the same thing. Honestly, I was only looking at like 1.5 to 2.2, and now the more I think about that number, I'm like, I don't know if that's gonna be enough because you have to think that's 35 years from now. Who knows what inflation is gonna
Yeah,
do to the value of dollars? So is that amount gonna even really amount to like what I need? So
yeah.
I want to have like probably 20 plus duplexes by the time I get to my retirement age. It's kind of like the end goal.
But here's the thing. Let's say you have that $2 million. It takes inflation into account. Because think about it. Let's say you invest in an S&P 500 index fund. It's 10% that you get returned per year. If you withdraw 4% and you pay 3% into inflation, you still have 3% left over, right? So that it will still grow by 3% every year. So it outpaces inflation anyway.
Oh no, I meant like just in general, like how much money will be worth. Like, well, 1.5 million or $2 million in 30 years from now would be like
Oh,
even
I
nothing.
see what you mean. I see what you mean.
Like
Yeah.
even survive. I'm like, who
Yeah.
knows? That might be pennies.
Yeah,
Oh,
you're right. Yeah, that's true. Wait, so what is your target date? At what age do you want to be able to have that much money?
I'm thinking I'm giving myself a 20-year limit where I can decide where I don't have to work full time. I can work when I want to work. I kind of want to, get to like how you were saying you were 15 hours. You said you were working or 17.
Yeah, 17 hours. Monica works 15.
Yeah, or even I could do like 20 hours a week. I have a buddy of mine. Him and his wife are both pharmacists, and they've decided to work just 30 hours a week, just because they're like, we don't need to work any more than this. Like that's where how kind of what I want to get to.
Yeah, I bring on average after taxes like $3,000 every 2 weeks. You know.
That's that still blows my mind. That's like 17 hour. I mean, what 34 hours?
Yeah.
That's pretty
No,
nice.
no, it's yeah, 34 hours every 2 weeks. So we're gonna wrap this up because I'm dressed because I have to go to work in like
Oh my bad,
five
my bad.
minutes. No, that's my daughter talking to me right now. So you said your goal is what in 30 years from now or so?
I would say 20 years from now, I want to be able to retire. So by 50, I can like realistically like work when I want to work. Is what I
Mm.
think as retirement. I'm never going to be completely done with working. I don't think.
Yeah. Yeah. A lot of people ask me, what am I going to do when I retire? But honestly, I just want to reach financial independence. I don't care about retiring early. I want to have the option to do whatever I want once I reach financial independence. And that's what I'm striving for because I actually like doing things. I don't like to be stagnant and lazy and not doing anything. So if I can do things that I really enjoy and make money doing them, that is my dream come true right there.
Well, I think honestly that's pretty much like the same goal. I feel like everyone should kind of have that like that goal in mind, and you got to keep just chipping away, and like you'll eventually get there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Y'all are
So
killing it.
So if there's any new grads out there, do you have any tips for them? Because I know there's always new grads that are reaching out to me and they're trying to figure out how they can find a job, what makes them stand out when they go look for a job. What kind of tips do you have for them?
I think for I wouldn't necessarily well new grads is while you're in nursing school, if you can try to pick up like a tech position. Kind of get some work around through that. Just apply everywhere and just go in with a strong interview. Have an idea of like look up interview questions. Just kind of be well prepared for your interview, and you'll land a job. And don't be afraid to ask past a new grad for more pay. I know for the IR position, I actually asked for more, and they actually matched it. So I think it's going in there and just having a strong interview is kind of really important too.
Yeah, I love that. Cool. And if people want to reach out to you, do you have contact information? Do you want them to reach out to you, or we just leave it at that?
Uh, I don't post, but
Yeah.
if you want, at one point I was trying to do something similar, like more like a male perspective of like nursing school and the nursing perspective and stuff like that. But if they want to, I do have a YouTube channel. You don't have to. We don't have to like promote it. I have like 174 subscribers. If not,
Give me the
or
channel.
it's just nurse like just nurse Damien or via email if they really want to reach out to me and ask questions, especially in the northeastern Florida area and stuff like that. What they can expect for pay, I would say starting pay in Northeast Florida anywhere from 33 to like 35.50, somewhere around there.
If you enjoyed this video, then watch this video here where I speak with Chris, the nurse who built a $3 million net worth.